Sandy Ryan versus Terri Harper. 12 rounds in the 147-pound division, the co-main event of Dalton Smith, Jose Zepeda. This is a title fight. If the WBO welterweight title is on the line, let's get into it. Let's start with Sandy Ryan. 6 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 2 wins by way of knockout. Sandy Ryan has jumped into the fire very early on in her career. She fought Erica Freyas, the former champion, who's been in the ring with Mary McGee, Delphine Pursoon, Cecilia Brækhus, Jessica McCaskill twice, and Michaela Mayer. She fought Fairies in her 4th fight, and it did not pay off in her favor. She did not fight her fight the first fight. She got sucked into fighting Freyas's fight. She got outworked at times. Thought she stayed in the pocket a little longer than she needed to at times. Wasn't as disciplined as she usually is. Right? She was boxing well early in the first fight, but her inexperience, man, kind of caught up to her. Now, in the second fight, in the rematch, you saw a much more composed, a much more disciplined, a much more focused Sandy Ryan. She wasn't overcommitting. She wasn't lunging forward. She was controlling the range, picking her spots with calculation, execution, and not just emotion. She used her footwork very well to create space, to create separation, used her jab consistent with the jab. She punched in combinations when she needed to. And it was showing us that, man, you know, she's able to learn from her losses, that the IQ inside of the ring in the professional sense, it's growing, it's there, right? Better performance, a better version of her, and it showed in that rematch. I've always thought that Sandy Ryan had very good technique, very good foundation, right? She always comes in great shape. She always has very good conditioning, and she believes in her skills and her talents. And I felt like her resume so far has shown that. Sometimes a young fighter comes in and they're starting out with 4-round fights, and they may do that for 3 or 4 fights, but Sandy jumped into 4-round fights. Right. But she was into the 10-round fights very, very, very early. So it shows, we're not here to play games. Right. This is where we believe that she is at. Now it's her job to prove it. So even though she doesn't have a lot of professional fights per se, she's more experienced than I believe what's seen on paper. In her most recent fight, she fought Jessica McCaskill, her toughest fight to date. And man, I got to say, she looked outstanding. Right? She was patient. She was quick with her hands. She punched in variations, different combinations were put together very well, right? She moved her head off the line. She didn't stay in the pocket longer than she needed to be, especially we know how physical of a presence Jessica McCaskill is. I thought Sandy Ryan looked comfortable. She looked confident, and she looked very much dialed in. Another thing in that fight was it kind of showed me how tough that she was, right? I think she likes the physical fights. She didn't go into that fight intimidated by Jessica McCaskill. She didn't go into that fight thinking that she was going to be the one fighting on the back foot. She was confident, right? She brought the fight to McCaskill, and she was not intimidated by the demeanor and the presence of McCaskill, right? I really liked the selections in her shot in that fight. I thought she was going to the body, and when she went to the body, it really hurt McCaskill and worked well in her favor. But I really liked the patience in her not neglecting the jab and making sure she was using her footwork to give different angles and to show that, hey, I'm not just a sitting duck here. You're not just going to have your way with me. I thought personally it was one of the most complete performance at the professional level for her that I've seen. Now, the draw. Personally, I thought Sandy Ryan was better on the night. I thought she won the fight, and you could make a case that some of those rounds were close, absolutely, but I felt like Sandy Ryan on the night, she did more. She won the fight. That wasn't the case, right? And she fought to a draw. So I thought she handled herself well in that fight. Probably one of her most complete performances, as I've said. I like that she's taking another fight with another name. She's not backtracking and taking a lesser opponent. She wants to stay relevant. She wants to stay with the top girl. And if she looks like how she did when she fought McCaskill, man, Harper, you got to watch out. But you cannot take Terri Harper for granted as well. Let's talk about her. Terri Harper, 14 wins, 1 loss, 2 draw, and 6 wins by way of knockout. Now, we've covered Terri Harper on the channel a couple times already. She's a tough woman. She looks to fight the best. She's won a world title in her 8th fight. if I remember correctly, in the super featherweight division. She fought Natasha Jonas to a draw, but things changed for her when she fought Alicia Baumgardner. We know what happened in that fight. She got caught with the right hand that made her freeze in her tracks, stunned in her tracks. And that was back in 2021. Now she's back to her winning ways in the new division, including wins over Hannah Rankin. So I was very curious when she said that she was moving up in weight to see how she was going to handle the weight, how she was going to move. Was it going to make her slower? What was her speed going to be? Was it going to make her stronger? You know, always questions that you always have to ask as a fighter is moving up, because you're just not sure how it's going to fold for them. It has worked for many and hasn't worked for many as well, too. In her most recent fight, she fought Cecilia Braekhus, an experienced fighter, man, a former champion, a Hall of Fame fighter. So we know Braekhus in her prime, what she has done and what she could do. But at 42 years old, you're not sure how that one was going to play out. And personally, I was expecting Terri Harper to have a big night, a big performance. The experienced Braekhus will always be there. The experience that she has, she'll always be there. The speed and the movement sometimes aren't there as you get older, and that could play a bigger factor, even though you're fighting an experienced fighter. And that wasn't the case on the night, man. I thought Terri Harper looked a little hesitant to me. She wasn't letting her hands go as much as I thought. Her timing just looked slightly off to me. She didn't really get in a rhythm to me. She had a few good counters against Braekhus. She came close to missing some big punches, but Braekhus came close to missing some big punches as well, too. I just felt like neither woman really separated themselves from each other. I was looking for either woman to really take advantage of the momentum that really wasn't being built by either woman, but that wasn't the case. So I felt like a draw was a fair result. I think in this fight, man, I think Harper needs to let her hands go a little bit more and to fight more on that front foot. I was not expecting Terri Harper to move as much as she did in this fight. I was expecting sometimes we'd see her on the front foot, sometimes we'd see her on the back foot, but it seemed like Braekhus was the one on the front foot most of the night, and Harper was accepting of that and didn't really get into the fight. To me, that can't be the case against Sandy Ryan. So I'm expecting a much better performance from Terri Harper, and we'll see how the execution is on the night. So who wins? I think this fight is going to start off a little bit slow, man. I think both women are going to, in the early parts of the fight, going to come in, testing each other, seeing how they're reacting to each other's feints and the movement, testing each other's power before adjusting the game plan. I thought when Sandy Ryan fought McCaskill, I was expecting McCaskill to use her physicality to rough up Sandy Ryan a little bit and make it more of a brawling and grueling fight, but that wasn't the case, right? She showed that if the fight is a physical fight, like, I can be physical as well too. Right? I thought she stood and fought her ground against McCaskill. Sandy's the bigger fighter. I think she's got a longer reach as well, too. So I'm curious to see what Harper's game plan is going to be. I think the naturally bigger woman is going to impose their size and skill on the night, because Sandy Ryan isn't just a big woman. She may not be a big puncher like that, but she can punch, and she's got good boxing skills. So she has a dual threat ability in a way. I also feel like Sandy's going to come more on the front foot. Harper isn't as good fighting off of the back foot. And if she's fighting off the back foot and she's moving laterally and trying to evade and being more defensive, you know, I think it's not going to work out in her favor, because Sandy, I think she's a better counter puncher than Terri Harper, and she's got a really good jab and she got good hand speed and she can take a punch, right? And I think that's going to work in her favor. I just felt like Terri Harper could have done more in her last fight to separate herself, because I do think she's a talent. I do think she has good skills, right? She has really good strengths, but for whatever reason, she was a little bit hesitant. And if that's the version that's going to come out to beat Sandy Ryan, I don't think that she is going to win this fight. I just feel like Sandy Ryan is going to come in and do a little bit more than Terri Harper on the night. She's going to come in on the front foot, bring the pressure, and I think that is going to make Terri Harper be comfortable and accepting of fighting on the back foot. And if you're fighting on the back foot, you're trying to be a counter puncher. You're not really bringing the pace. And judges like when the fighters are on the front foot, being the more opposing and physical presence in the fight. I like Sandy Ryan to win this fight by decision. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways that you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Any amount goes towards the growth of this channel. It will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Shout out to all the members holding down the membership section. I appreciate each of you. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video, this time do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.